Okay, good evening. Let us now begin the discussion of the nervous tissue. The nervous tissue. So far, we talked about how many different types of tissues. The first one was the epithelial tissue, followed by the connective tissue. Then we last week did the muscular tissue, and today we did the today we're going to do the nervous tissue. Okay, so we know something about the nervous tissue before even beginning the lecture, and that was discussed last week, which is there's something in common between the muscle tissue and the nervous tissue, and that is both tissues are excitable and they respond to membrane voltage change. They are conductive tissues, they conduct electricity, and in fact, there's an interface. The synaptic cleft, the neuromuscular junction, neuromuscular, nerve tissue, muscle tissue. So, neuromuscular junction is a junction that brings together a nerve and a muscle, where the nerve successfully transfers over a membrane voltage change, depolarization from the nerve to the muscle thanks to a neurotransmitter by the name of, what's the name of the neurotransmitter that is released from the synaptic button at the presynaptic terminal? Yes, that's acetylcholine, ACH. Acetylcholine, ACH goes and binds to the postsynaptic terminal. Then we're going to move on today to discuss that we have a neuroendocrine tissue. So there is an endocrine system and there is a nervous system, endocrine system and a nervous system. The endocrine system communicates by means of chemical messengers, hormones that are trying to help us maintain homeostasis for survival. There's too much glucose, we secrete from the pancreas insulin. If there is too little glucose, we secrete glucagon. And the nervous tissue is going to utilize neurons. These neurons, by the way, we said that the endocrine system is responsible for survival because too much sugar is going to lead to death, and too little sugar, hypoglycemia, going to lead to death. Too much sugar, hyperglycemia, will definitely lead to death. What about when we look at reproduction? Testosterone, that is a hormone. Estrogen, that is a hormone. We discussed how essential these hormones are. We discussed how essential testosterone is, and we discussed how essential estrogen is. So, if you look at the nervous system, you see that the nervous system utilizes neurons, and in the end of these neurons, you have bubbles, balloons, vesicles that are full of neurotransmitters. So they send messages, and when they send the messages, they conduct electrical voltage change. So there is a reception of a stimuli from the external environment, and it transmits messages to the central nervous system, and then the central nervous system processes the information, and then it issues a command. We're going to discuss that. Okay, so if you look at the central nervous system is the computer. The central nervous system is the computer that is responsible for processing, integration, and control. Processing, integration, and control. But no computer can only be based on processing, integration, and control. We need input. We need output. So, for example, you call 911 because you want a fire truck. I call 911 because I want the ambulance. Somebody else calls 911 because they want the police. Are those three things the same? So the 911 call center has to be able to receive the call, right? Receive the call, and it has to be able to dispatch an output. Now, if you look at the nervous system, it's the same thing. We have a processing center, a control center, a integration center, and this center is like the 911 center. And we also have another system that doesn't do processing. You know, the 911 center call is gonna process, integrate, control. What do you need? Do you need an ambulance? Do you need the fire truck? Do you need the police? But the phone line that brought the call in, that's called the input line. And then let's say the 911 center found out you need the fire truck. They need to make a call to the fire department, make a call to the police, make a call to the ambulance. That's another phone line. One phone line to receive the call and one phone line to call the effector. We call those the effector. If there is a crime, you need the police. The police is the effector. If you call and you need the fire truck and the fire truck comes, that's the effector. So you need a phone line to bring in the information from the receptor. You are the receptor. You saw there is a crime, you need the police. You saw there is a crime, you need the ambulance. You saw there is a crime, you need the fire truck. So you're the one who sent out the command for the input to the control center, to the integration center. That's a phone line in and a phone line out. So we divide our nervous system into two divisions. One division, the center, the brain and the spinal cord. And the other division is the calling, the one that input signal and the output signal. So if you see here, the central nervous system is in the center, the brain and the spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is responsible for the input and output. This is really important. Is there a marker? I need a marker. Yeah, that's very good. So let's look at, there we go. This is very important. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we said that the nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And the central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. And the peripheral nervous system, so think of it this way. You have a center here. This is very, very important. This center is the one that's responsible for making decisions. The center that is responsible for processing, control, integration, and this is represented by your brain and the spinal cord. Is that point clear? So that's a whole division. The other division is the one that brings in the call. What is that called? This is input because it brings in to the inside. That's an input signal because it's going toward. Where is coming from? is coming from a receptor. A receptor is the one who detected the outside stimulus. So you have a chemoreceptor, meaning a receptor that detects chemicals. So there's a chemoreceptor, osmoreceptor for osmolarity, photoreceptor, chemoreceptor, osmoreceptor, photoreceptor, mechanoreceptor, and photoreceptor, chemo, osmo, mechano. What else? Tactile is mechanoreceptor, osmoreceptor, thermal, temperature, thermal receptor. So they are the ones who send out an input. The input is absolutely always what? The input is absolutely always sensory. Sensory input. It's a sensory input for sensation. For sensation. Because the temperature, that's a sensation. Tasting the blood. Is it acidic? Is it basic? Too much sugar? Too much salt? That's chemoreceptor. Photoreceptor, light. Thermoreceptor, temperature. Tactile or mechanoreceptor, touch. So what is that? That's all sensation. Input, sensory input. Sensory input. And the sensory input, the phone line that brings in the sensory input is called afferent. Is called afferent stimuli. Is called afferent stimuli. And you also see that there is an output. Once you call in, you put an input, there is an output. And if the input was sensory, the output is going to be, if the input is sensory, the output is always motor. And if the phone line that brings in the sensory information is afferent, then the outgoing line is going to be efferent. What's the target? It was the receptor to the integration center was the input sensory afferent. From the processing center to what? We're going to get the output motor efferent center stimulation. What is that? The output is going to the, I said it earlier. No, we're not going to go to the receptor. The receptor, when you call the police, the police, you said you wanted the fire truck. They're going to call you or they're going to call the fire truck. So what do you call the fire truck? No, the processing center is the 911 call center. That's the one who processed, is the one who dispatched. Who do we dispatch to? Who do we tell? Police go to Staten Island. Fire truck go to Manhattan. Police go to Brooklyn. What's the name of those? Remember we said the pancreas is going to secrete a hormone. After the brain tells it there's too much sugar. So what do we call it? Effector. 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 And we said effectors are either glands in the body, glands or organs. Glands or organs. Any questions? Glands or organs. Glands or organs. So let's look at an example. Blood sugar went up. What do we call that? Hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia is going to be detected by a mechanoreceptor, photoreceptor, chemoreceptor, osmoreceptor, or thermoreceptor. Chemoreceptor. The chemoreceptor is going to send an input sensory afferent command to who? The brain. The brain is going to send an output motor efferent response to the pancreas, the effector, who's a gland. The pancreas is going to solve the problem. You call, there's a criminal, you call the police, the center will tell the police will go and arrest the criminal. Let's look at it another way. It's too hot outside, very hot outside. You're getting dehydrated, hypovolemia. Who's the receptor who's going to detect that it's really hot? Mechanoreceptor, photoreceptor, chemoreceptor, osmoreceptor, photoreceptor, thermoreceptor. Thermoreceptor. Thermoreceptor is going to send input sensory afferent stimulation to who? The brain. The brain is going to send out an output motor efferent signal to who? The sweat gland, to make you sweat, and to your blood vessels to make them vasodilate so that the heat can go. Now you see how it's going. So there's always a sensation, but you need to know sensation is between receptor, brain. Motor output is between brain and the effector. There's one last thing I need you to be aware of. This is correct. It's just missing one thing. It is missing where is all of this happening. For example, let's say you call the police. You call 911. You need the police. The police need to know your address. Your address. So when you are reporting in your to the brain, once the brain is being reported to, when you report to the brain is hot, the brain needs to know who is hot. And all it needs to know is one of two things. Is it somatic or visceral? What did we say earlier? What is somatic? What is visceral? Somatic is tough tissue. Somatic is bone, muscle, tendon, ligament, and visceral is heart, lung, brain, bladder, intestine. So somatic is tough tissue and visceral is soft tissue. So the fourth thing we need to add is that we have 4 lines: input, sensory, afferent, visceral. Listen. Don't run, don't jump. Listen. Input, sensory, afferent, visceral, and output, motor, efferent, visceral. That's the one system. So if you're sending an input, sensory, afferent, visceral information, the output is going to be to the visceral tissue. And you have a separate line that is also input, sensory, afferent, and lastly, what is it? Somatic. And the output is going to be output, very good, output, motor, efferent, and somatic. So that means you call for a fire truck in Staten Island, you're going to get a fire truck in Staten Island. You're not going to get a fire truck in Brooklyn. Same thing. You send the input, sensory, afferent, visceral, the output is going to be output, motor, efferent, visceral. You send in an input, sensory, afferent, somatic, you're going to get an output, motor, efferent, somatic. The last thing you need to know is that this one here, this system, how many systems you have? 1. That's the first system. Input, sensory, afferent, somatic. right? That's a system. Do you see it? Input, sensory, afferent, somatic. That's a system. Then you have number 2, input, sensory, afferent, visceral. That's a second system. Then you have output, motor, efferent, visceral. And what's number 4? Output, motor, efferent, somatic. One of those 4 is a special division. They call it the autonomic nervous system. Which one is it? The visceral motor. There is 2 visceral motors. Visceral motor. Oops, no. There's only one visceral motor. Visceral efferent motor. Excellent. Very good. Very good, Christy. So this is your autonomic nervous system. What is your autonomic nervous system? Is the system that is sending out an output that is motor through efferent neurons to viscera. And you can tell your autonomic nervous system controls your heart. Your autonomic nervous system controls your breathing. So breathing, heart is soft tissue, viscera. Lung is soft tissue, viscera. So that's an example of the autonomic nervous system. This is very, very, very important. Is that clear? Anybody have any question? I'm going to post it. You can find it. You can find it online. You can take a photo. I'm going to post it. It's going to be online. The moment the class ends, I'm going to upload it to YouTube. I don't do this and hide it. I'm doing it for you guys. So you don't have to worry about taking photos. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okie dokie. Let us now look at what's on the slides. We rest now. We rest. No more, please. No more. Okay. No. Please stop. Go. Wants to give us hyperglycemia. She wants to give us a hyperglycemia coma. Okay. Nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So now you know the peripheral nervous system is either in or out. Input, remember the 2 arrows I drew earlier? Toward the center, away from the center. Those 2 arrows are one system. It's called the peripheral nervous system. While the center we're trying to get to is known as the central nervous system. So the nerve is a bundle of nerve fibers, axons, wrapped in fibrous connective tissue. The ganglion is a knot-like swelling in a nerve where the neuron cell bodies of the peripheral nervous system are connected. A nerve is a bundle of nerve fibers, axons, wrapped in fibrous connective tissue. A knot-like swelling in a nerve where the neuron cell bodies of the peripheral nervous system are concentrated. The functional divisions of the peripheral nervous system. We talked about that. The sensory afferent. Remember? Afferent is always what? Afferent is always going, very good, going to the center, and it's sensory. Two more things. What did I write there? Afferent, sensory, input, and visceral or somatic. The fourth one is one of two. You call the police for a crime. The last thing is Staten Island, Manhattan, Queens, you know what I mean? But here, input, sensory, afferent, that's standard. The only thing that's variable is it somatic or somatic or visceral. So there we go. Somatic sensory division carries signals, you see, from receptors to tough tissue, skin, muscle, bone, joints, ligaments, tendons. And visceral sensory division carries signals from the viscera, like your heart, to where? From viscera to where? The visceral sensory division carries from the heart, bladder, stomach to where? To the central nervous. It doesn't only have to be brain. It could be the spinal cord, like urination. Urination doesn't go to the brain. In urination, when the urinary bladder is full of urine, the urine is going to distend and push against the boundaries of the muscle, the detrusor muscle in your bladder. When the muscle contract, the nerves are going to get stretched, the mechanotactile receptors, then they're going to send input sensory, visceral, afferent information to the spinal cord. Then the spinal cord will cause the voluntary relaxation and the micturition reflex. Okay, urination. There we go. That's another very important photo. The central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. Peripheral is sensory, arrow pointing in, and it's either visceral or somatic. Remember that? Or motor division coming from the center to the effector. We said the effectors are two things. What are the two effectors? The effectors are somatic or visceral. But what are the effectors? Organs or glands. Very good. But they are somatic or visceral. Very good. There you go. Somatic or visceral. Visceral has three divisions. Sympathetic. That's all known as the autonomic. But the autonomic is divided into sympathetic, fight or flight, survival, fight for my life, blood pressure going up, heart rate going up, contractility going up, cardiac output going up, stroke volume going up, because I want to survive. I want to give as much oxygen to my muscles for metabolism so I can run and survive. And flight or fight, or rest and digest. I had a nice meal, I lay in the couch, I sleep. Or the enteric. What's the enteric system? That's a whole autonomic nervous system responsible for your digestive system. So when you eat the food, you voluntarily churn and you crush the food in your mouth. But once you swallow it, it goes down the esophagus. Do you make it go to the stomach? Do you tell the esophagus, listen, esophagus, Please do peristalsis, segmental band movement, ripple-like effect to propel the food bolus down my esophagus. Do you tell it that? Do you tell the stomach, can you churn and crush this food? Do you tell the intestine, can you please secrete the enzymes, and stomach secrete the acid, and let us reabsorb all of the nutrients, take them to the blood circulation? You don't. That's the enteric nervous system that does that. So some people have the congenital absence of the myenteric plexus. So they are born in their embryological development, they were not able to develop the myenteric plexus. So this myenteric plexus now is going to prevent the since it's absent, they're gonna have a problem with digestion. They always have malabsorption. Because it is this enteric system that is affected. By the way, people forget the enteric system. The enteric system has neurons that are equal to the spinal cord. So it's not like a really tiny system, it's a huge system.
So these people are going to be able to eat?
They eat, but they suffer. It's not a smooth thing for them. Yes, soft food and pureed food.
But the
Pureed
GI
food.
do the absorption and everything, but
Hmm?
it's just the GI.
It's not there. You cannot make it. Only God make tissue. We fix tissue, but we can't make tissue. It's not there. It's gone. They have a severe absence of the plexus. Plexus is like a braid, but the braid is not of hair. Braid of nerves. So all the nerves are excitable. That means they have the ability to respond to stimuli. They have conductivity, so they produce electrical signals that are conducted to other cells, and they're important for secretion. So when a signal reaches the end of the axon, the neuron secretes a neurotransmitter that stimulates the next cell. The sensory afferent neuron detect the stimuli and transmit the information about it towards. Remember, the arrow is going to point. Sensory is going to go from the receptor towards the central nervous system. Very good. And motor neuron is going to go from the central nervous system to the effector. Very good. There is one more type of neurons I forgot to draw. And these are found where? Inside the central nervous system. So you know when you call the 911 center. So the 911 center only receive call and send out call to the effector, or can they make a phone call inside the center from the third floor to the second floor to the fourth floor? They do that too, right? Your brain does that also. It receives phone calls to the brain, and while you are inside the brain is talking to itself. These are known as interneurons. In fact, these are the most important and the most numerous. There are more interneurons than afferent neurons and efferent neurons. So there's three types of neurons. Afferent neurons bring in input, sensory stimulation. Efferent neurons sending out, output, motor, efferent. And interneurons mediating, this conduction and the integration and processing and the control. These are the interneurons. They receive signals from other neurons, process the information, and make the resulting decisions. There you go. That shows you see the peripheral nervous system is going to communicate. Sensory afferent neurons are going to conduct signals from the receptor towards the brain. And motor neurons are efferent. They send out a motor output to the effector. Here is a muscle. And number two, you have interneurons. These are mediating between brain and spinal cord, different parts of the brain. The brain is not just a one big thing. It's compartmentalized. There's the medulla oblongata in there. There's the cerebrum, cerebellum, brain stem. So they all need to communicate through the interneurons. The cell body, also called the neurosoma. So the structure of a neuron is that it has the cell body, which is the center. That's the cell body. That's the computer. And these are the dendrites that bring in the input towards the cell body, the neurosoma, the computer. Then the out, you have your axon. And the axon is going to be sending out all the information that is being told by this circle, the nucleus, the center, the neurosoma. If you look here, you see that the axon is very long and it is wrapped, it has saran wrap around it. You see these rolled myelin sheath. What is the job of that? It doesn't only protect, but it makes the signal go very fast. And there's two types of cells who wrap this saran wrap. We don't call it saran wrap. It's called myelin sheath. There's two cells that make this myelin sheath. Yes, so the oligodendrocytes are found in the central nervous system. If you are an axon of a neuron in the central nervous system, then you have the oligodendrocytes wrapping the myelin sheath around it. But if you have a neuron that is outside the central nervous system, in the peripheral nervous system, what kind of neuron is responsible for that? That is the Schwann cell. There is an autoimmune disease. If you remember last week when we were talking about the myasthenia gravis. We said in myasthenia gravis, your immune system, you know what did we say that an autoimmune disease? What's an autoimmune disease? Yeah, there is excellent. Autoimmune means amnesia. So that means your immune system does not remember anymore self from non-self. So in myasthenia gravis, the antibodies are destroying who? What do you mean they destroy themselves? The antibodies are destroying who? They're not destroying the body. Where in the body? Of course the body. Where in the body? They're destroying the acetylcholine receptor. Remember, the acetylcholine binds the receptor. Now you have so much acetylcholine and no receptor because it was destroyed by the antibodies. That's myasthenia gravis. In multiple sclerosis, the antibody is destroying the myelin sheath. So the antibody is not destroying the receptor for acetylcholine. That's myasthenia gravis. Multiple sclerosis is when the antibody is destroying the myelin sheath. So you see that these patients, the nerve conduction is so slow. Very good. There you go. That's the myelin sheath. And you see that's the structure of a neuron. This is the structure of a neuron. What are those? You should see an arrow. Without it being there, you should be able to tell. Since you identified this big circle as the neurosoma, the cell body, that's the nucleus, the computer. all the information want to come to the computer through these different, what do we call those? Dendrites. And then there's a processing control integration that's going to happen in the cell body, in the neurosoma. Then an output is going to be sent through the, what's the name of this structure through which the output is going to be passing? The axon. And that axon is highly myelinated. Very good. If you look at a neuron, you will see that there's a Schwann cell nucleus, and the Schwann cell nucleus is the wrapping myelin sheath around the axon. If this was a neuron in the peripheral nervous system, you use a Schwann cell. But if you are a neuron in the central nervous system, what is that called? Oligodendrocytes. You see, these are the neurofibrils, the axons. Those are chromatophilic substances, and this is the axon. See, this is the axon hillock. There are different types of neurons. Some are multipolar. These have one axon and multiple dendrites. Bipolar, they have one axon and one dendrite. Unipolar, single process leading away from the body, splits into peripheral process, central process. Anaxonic, meaning that it has many dendrites, but it lacks. Anaxonic, lacks an axon. So that shows you a multipolar neuron, you see, and this is a bipolar neuron. There's a unipolar neuron, anaxonic neuron. An axonal transport is two-way passage of the materials along the axon. Anterograde and retrograde. Remember from amnesia? Anterograde amnesia, you will never remember from the moment of the incident and afterward. If you got an incident in 2000, you will never remember what happened after 2000. That's anterograde amnesia. But if you got the incident in 2000 and you remember everything after 2000, you don't remember 1999, 1998, that's retrograde amnesia. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But it doesn't look like it was a long time ago. Raise your hand if you remember 1999. Batista doesn't remember 1999. Wow. Yeah, that year I think I was in 7th grade. Yeah, I was in 7th grade. Yeah. Yeah. I was in 7th grade, and we thought that when 2000 come, the world is gonna, something is getting 2000, and we thought like, and actually the world went crazy in 2000 actually. If you look back, yeah, it's always been crazy, but after 2000 it went mad.
It's funny because I have a coworker, she's yoga witness. She said, "Oh, you see these catastrophic things are happening. The world has since I was born. The world is ended."
Yeah, they showed a video of kids in 1966, and they told them, what do you think is going to be happening in 1980? They said, oh my God, 1980? Oh, the world is going to go mad. They said, what about 2000? 2000, there wouldn't be world in 2000. Actually, they are right. There's no world now. People are like robots. Look at them in the subway. Somebody dying over there. People don't care. Solomon walking in the subway. Somebody dead. Solomon, help me. I gotta go to class. It's like that. One time I was in the subway and it was snowing, and somebody slipped, and people. I walked too. What do you want me to do? I said, let me be careful. I was careful, and then I walked because I was late for work. Yeah. But I pray for him. I walk, I pray. I hope he's okay. He was wearing dress shoes in the sleet. That wasn't smart. You see, life, when in life want to teach you a lesson, is not nice. Okay, supportive cells. Oh, this is very, very important concept. So if you look at the school, do you only have professors and students? No, you have professors, you have students, and you have HR, you have psychologists, you have support staff. Without them, the school cannot go. The same thing in your brain. Your brain is not only made up of neurons, there is supportive cells, like supportive police cells to make sure that the neurons, they are not infected. Just like here we have public safety to protect that no criminal inside the school. The same thing, the same thing. Be serious, be serious, be serious, be serious. So the same thing, your nervous system, it has microglia, these immune cells that are just sentinel resident in your nervous system in order to ensure that there is no infection of your nervous system. Actually, those supportive cells are actually the troublemakers. You know why? Because the nervous system is non-regenerative. That's why we have a stroke. Your skin, we talked about that. Your skin can enter the mitosis and cell cycle anytime that it wants to. But your brain, it is a terminally differentiated tissue. So how do we get brain cancer? How do we get brain cancer? Please don't yawn loudly. So what is the reason? How do we get brain cancer? I thought cancer is uncontrollable cell division, but the neurons don't divide. How do we get cancer? The glia are not those supportive cells, the helper cells. Those ones, they divide. Your brain, your neurons don't divide, but the helpers divide. And when they get cancer, cancer spread to your neurons. So let's now look at when you hear glia or neuroglia, these are not neurons. They cannot do any processing, integration, control, input, sensory reception, output. They cannot do any of that. But they're just around for like housekeeping and support. But when they get cancer, you end up, God forbid, with brain cancer. There they are. You see? That's the capillary, the astrocyte, and the ependymal cell that makes the cerebrospinal fluid. And you see those Schwann cell. That's an example of a glia. The Schwann cell make myelin sheath, but it doesn't really do any integration and control. The satellite cells, they surround the nerve cell body like a satellite, and they provide insulation. And you see the brain tumor is because one of those microglia developed cancer, then it spread it to nearby tissue. Yeah. Most is always in the back. I don't know. It's always in the back. Where in the back? Like the occipital lobe. So this here looks like in the occipital lobe, but I don't know why always in the back. That's a good note, but I have no idea. I'm sorry. I don't know. I wish I knew. That's a good idea. That's a good. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, I would never. I would never know everything. But that's a good observation. Okay. Okay. There you go. That's the myelination. So myelination takes place. You have the Schwann cells are wrapping the myelin around the axons, and the nucleus is surrounding around is managing this Schwann cell secretion of the myelin sheath, and then we end up with an endoneurium and a neurolemma, and then this myelin sheath that is going to encapsulate the axonal regions to mediate the speedy transfer of action potentials through the axon. That's the myelination. Myelination is the central nervous system. You see each oligodendrocyte extends several processes that wrap around a small portion of many axons in the immediate vicinity. That's the oligodendrocyte. Does exactly what the Schwann cell does, but in a different location. Where is a different location? In the brain tissue. Multiple sclerosis, we discussed that. We said that the deterioration of the myelin sheath of the oligodendrocytes, and that is because the autoimmune system, and they say that this autoimmune disease is caused by a viral attack. So the virus is going to set off your immune system to go and destroy the oligodendrocytes. They destroy the myelin sheath and the cells that make the myelin sheath, the oligodendrocytes. What's Tay-Sachs disease? Tay-Sachs disease is a hereditary disorder seen mainly in infants of Eastern European Jewish ancestry. They usually die before the age of 4. And it's an abnormal accumulation of the glycolipid called GM2 ganglioside in the myelin sheath. So it is normally decomposed by a lysosomal enzyme. That's a waste. GM2 is a waste that should be removed. The enzyme, due to a mutation, is missing in individuals who are homozygous for Tay-Sachs allele. So the accumulation of the ganglioside GM2 is going to disrupt the conduction of the nerve signals, causes blindness, loss of coordination, and dementia. So there we go. You see the Schwann cell, and these are the unmyelinated axons. When we look at nerve regeneration, so regeneration of damaged peripheral nervous system nerve fibers can occur if the nerve cell bodies are intact and at least some neurolemma is going to remain. So the Schwann cell, known as the neurolemma and the endoneurium and the basal lamina, they form a regeneration tube. This is the normal axon, and since there is a damage here, macrophages are going to come. They're going to remove all the necrotic debris and damaged tissue. And then there's a degeneration of the severed axon. Then there's an early regeneration and healing and making of the regeneration tube. Late regeneration. Late regeneration is when there is a retraction of the growth processes and there is a complete healing and regeneration of the axon. Neural communication is based on electrical potentials and currents. So the electrical potential represents the difference in concentration of charged particles between one point and another. And the current represents the flow of charged particles from one point to another. Example would be a flashlight battery. The resting membrane potential is a charge difference across the plasma membrane. Here you have electrical currents in the body created by flow of ions through the gated channels in the membrane. Okay, the ionic basis of the resting membrane potential, you see that there are leak channels. These are known as the potassium channels. They allow for the leakage of the sodium, and potassium channels, they allow for the leakage of potassium. And okay, so I have to take a very quick break, and we will continue. We will wrap it up, in 15 minutes. Okay, we will wrap it up in 15 minutes.